And hi there, it's Tim from the KGOR Morning Show, and my first official guest on Facebook Live is none other than John Tesh. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for trying this out on me, Tim. I appreciate it. But this is really, really cool. I love it. I don't normally get to see you, you know?
Yeah, it's like we were doing phone interviews before, and then you get to
Right.
it's like we might as well just step it up and bring in the 21st century. I mean, you are a TV star, for God's sakes. I mean, we might as well do video.
X. Yeah, I just want to see how you have such a clean deal there. I have macadamia nuts, and I've got MCT powder. This is medium chain triglyceride oil. I'm on this because of what we do every day, right? We interview these experts that come up with these amazing diets. Hi, Megan Bird. Megan Bird says, "Hi, Tesh. This is really great." Yeah.
It's awesome because not only you can talk about the things, but you can also show the things because obviously Facebook's been getting a lot of bad pub recently.
Right.
But with the social media thing going on, do you think does your gut tell you that people are doing things they would not normally do because they have the abilities on Facebook Live or any of those live?
Yeah, programs? I mean, it's we saw this, we've seen this, even when I was growing up with people messing with their answering machines. Back when there was a machine, there's always that fringe, and Twitter. We've done stuff on the radio show quite often from psychotherapists, including Dr. Ramani Durvasula, about how there's Twitter rage where you feel like you can just you can say really terrible stuff about people because you're not able to see their face and you're not getting an immediate reaction, so it makes you meaner. But then you flip it over and you realize that in a disaster, Twitter is actually really, really useful. Hi, Kim Schaefer Crane. So there's always that fringe, but I think that. I think that Facebook Live is sort of the natural. I mean, remember when people were I went to a Coldplay concert a couple of years ago with my daughter who was 18 at the time. Nobody was watching the concert. Everybody was holding up their video camera. That's starting to wane a little bit because millennials actually want to have the experience. But I think as soon as the technology gets launched, it easily, I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but it easily can be bastardized by people who just are using it for the wrong reason.
Right, especially with the sharing of inappropriate videos, sharing. I mean, everything is so different now that a lot of things that are bad can happen to young kids. The 13, 14-year-olds getting bullied and things. It just amplifies that whole element to where it's like you really have to pay so much attention to what your teens are doing.
We have 3 grandkids that are usually running around here in our studio, and there's a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and now a 7-month-old, Gibbs kids. And we had the conversation with Gib because Gib is so plugged into social media. Gib and Prima too, my 22-year-old daughter. But we're talking about how they have complete control over their kids now, and they only let them have a certain amount of screen time and the rest of the stuff. But I had a friend who was our sound mixer years ago for our concerts, and he was the most amazing dad ever, And he was he pitched for their softball teams. These 3 girls that he had, they were 2 years apart. And they were just incredible kids. The mom made the clothes. They came over for Christmas all the time, and they were just so amazing. And then all of a sudden, one of them ended up with bulimia, lost all of her teeth. The other one, had some terrible times with anorexia, and it was just their lives were just melting. And he said to me, he said, I said, you were like dad of the year, and he said, I missed one thing. He said, we knew instinctively that the kids that the group that they were involved with was the wrong group, and so I've had other friends who pulled their kids out of that school and switched schools, But the point is, what my friend told me is, you can put God in the mix, you can put parents in the mix, you can put aunts and uncles, but nobody beats the friends. So so now you got the friends and you got the social media. So nobody beats social media, right? And so we just can't let the kids have their phones. I'll never let my grandkids have the phones when they sleep over here, right? At night, they got to be charged in the parents' room.
Right, and that's one way to do it, and then as they get older, then it's that fine line of what's that right age, maturity level has to kick in, but what's that, age? What are people, some of the people that you're talking, some of the psychologists and so on, is there, like, is it 15? Is it, is
You
that
keep
possible to even nail it?
drinking because some parents, there's a lot of double working parents, right? I mean, we were, Connie and I both working at the same time, and you get to the point where you want to give your kids a cell phone in case of emergency. So sometimes it's 8 years old, for some people. I want to do a shout out to Lucy Chapman and also, of course, Scott Myers, our genius executive producer / CEO, who is who is watching us now. Yeah, it's just it's being involved, and it's really, really interesting. We've had consultants say to me and Scotty, "Hey, don't mention on the air on the radio show that you're in Connie, your grandparents, because most people think you're 40 years old because they don't remember you from photos." But it's important because I think being the grandparent of a kid in this, having kids and being a grandparent, you learn an amazing thing about psychology, about trying to keep your kids in that in that bubble. And even if you don't have kids and you're watching this, there's a whole thing about how if you don't time out your social media, and I know Scotty's probably going through his Instagram feed right now, but you just end up doing nothing. There's a podcast that we did with Ryan Holiday, and you can see it at the Intelligence for Your Life podcast. I just saw Bradley Whitmore. It's messaged us. I wonder if that's the same guy. I'm thinking Brad Whitfield. Yeah. Anyway, there's what was I just talking about? I just lost my mind. You were listening.
I lost my mind.
All right. Anyway, there's that thing where if you're not, what Ryan Holiday said, and he wrote the book about ego is the enemy and the obstacle is the way. A lot of us think we're creating something when we're just making updates on our Facebook page and we're tweeting and all the rest of that stuff. And it turns out we're just not doing anything. We're not creating anything because we're taking credit for just responding to stuff. And so his whole point is you got to shut that stuff off and actually spend time creating. Otherwise, you're just reacting. You did knock me off track, Bradley Whitmore. You absolutely did.
That's the scene. Here's another thing. You have to be. You have to do like 5 things at once. You have to. If you look at questions, people are saying hi. They have questions, and of course,
I just made my own point. I just made my own point.
That's liking your own post on Facebook equivalent there.
Yeah.
What about the smartphones then? Since everybody's walking around with one, and I often look at parties, especially over Easter. I looked at the family. There were 7 people in the living room. 6 out of the 7 were on their phone. And
this is why
it's not family, for God's sakes.
Yeah, first of all, we have to recognize that. But this is why I try not to get preachy on the radio shows, because water seeks its own level. And we understand that we're all going to use our cell phones. We're not going to get off them. We're all going to be updating. We're all going to be updating all kinds of stuff. And so that is actually going to happen. And there's no way to stem that tide, so to speak. But if you lay out for people, hey, here's what's going to happen if you set a timer and only spend a certain amount of time doing this, then they understand it. And it's the same thing for me. I have to say, okay, I'm not going to answer emails. And Scott Myers knows this. I have to say, Scotty, I can't answer emails from that. I had like a 15-hour band rehearsal. We're going out on the road next week. And I had this long rehearsal yesterday. And I finally just said, Scotty, I can't answer any of these questions. Just go answer them yourself. And he's so good at that's what he did. But you have to time out that stuff. And so instead of me saying, hey, don't take your phone into the bathroom, people are going to do that, right? So it's
right.
Okay, don't take your phone into the bathroom 5 times a day. Maybe one of those things. The great thing about the smartphone is that listen, you can right now you could pull up our podcast and listen to that. Right now, I can continue reading 4 books that I'm reading at the same time. So instead of Satan's gonna come kill, steal, and destroy us all, there's a way to use this stuff for good.
Yeah, and it's also to the point where you have news, you have music, you have alerts. We had severe weather in the Omaha metro earlier this morning, and you have all of these things at your fingertips. Everybody's so plugged in at all times.
Right.
Whenever anything goes on, that's a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of positive elements to it.
Yeah, it absolutely can be. And the other thing is, we talk about, a lot of people ask us questions on the show about how do I get a job, how do I get a raise, and things like that. And so you can just take things like, don't ever bring because we're so coffeeified, right? And there's coffee shops everywhere, so we always have a macchiato in our hand. Don't remember the photo of President Obama walking off of Air Force One with a coffee cup in his hand, and he sort of saluted with the coffee cup, and we all went crazy because that's the thing where you don't want to walk into a job interview with a coffee cup. Don't ever do that, and don't ever walk into, when you go to a job interview and you're sitting there, for example, in reception and you're waiting for your turn. The receptionist is going to report to the guys that are in there interviewing, and if you're like this on your phone the whole time, that's exactly what they're going to tell them, and that's the problem that we have a lot of times. Even in our own family, where you're trying to talk to somebody and they're like this, and the reason that happens is because we're so used to doing that. But what I do love about millennials, and everybody's beating on millennials all the time, and I got two of them in my house, is that they're really going old school now. So you're seeing a lot of folks that are going retro. They're putting on ties. They're eating better. They're not in their car. Many of them don't even own their cars. So I think this whole thing is flipping over. The way the Tony Bennett popularity flipped over, a few years ago in our lives, where all of a sudden old is new again. I think it's happening again.
I wonder if he'll do Facebook Live. I mean, the man is pushing 90, right?
Yeah, he's plugged in. He'll do whatever his manager tells him within reason. And he deserves to do that because the music that's a guy that has been old school cool for a very, very long time.
You were talking about practicing earlier. So are you heading out on the road now? Or are you in a break, or you're
we are.
Tour?
We're going next week. We're going to do 6 shows, and Scotty is our tour manager because I don't trust anybody else. And, he's I do
one-stop shopping guy, a producer and a tour manager.
He is, but this has been really complicated. And speaking of the technology that's available, I'm going out with grand piano, and then my bassist Tim Landers, and also Mark Vischer on sax and flute. And so it's a real unplugged thing. We're not playing any venue over 400 people, and we normally play like 2,000 or 3,000. But we're taking video with us, so we have a projection screen that we take with us, and it's connected to pretty much everything in my life that was inspirational. So we're doing, we're showing how the music was. I wrote some of the music for the Olympic Games, and also sort of the early years of Entertainment Tonight and growing up as a broadcaster, and how certain song, how I wrote these, this theme song with Howie Mandel. So it's really sort of my version of Behind the Music. Remember the old MTV series?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really the concert that I would want to go to. So if I went to a Yes or a Rick Wakeman concert, even Billy Joel concert, he's doing those great things in Madison Square Garden. I'd love to see him with 400 people. And tell me again the story about Piano Man and Italian Restaurant and all of that stuff. And I think when you get to a certain age, you've done enough. Like me, you've done enough goofy stuff. I'm also, and I can't remember if I mentioned this to you, but we haven't made some big giant announcement. But I'm in the middle of. 6 days ago, was it, Scotty? 6 days ago, I had my first round of chemo, and so a year and a half ago, I had a major operation for prostate cancer, which they found by accident, and I should be dead now easily. And then it metastasized into some of my lymph nodes, and so we moved to MD Anderson, and this amazing guy named Christopher Logothetis, who's the head of oncology there, and also Ted Schaefer, who did my original surgery, who actually did Ben Stiller's surgery. And Ben came out talking about that. These guys basically have saved my life. But that journey of, all of a sudden, okay, you got 4 years to live is really basically what they were saying at the beginning, is something that I want to talk about on stage as well. Because when you're given this sort of death sentence, then you switch into high gear, and obviously, and so my wife, Connie, we celebrated 25 years last week. she's really been my advocate. So we've been hitting this not only with chemotherapy and hormone therapy and surgery and all that, but with some amazing scripture. There are certain scriptures in the Bible that are based primarily on healing, and so we've been using those and manifesting the healing in my life. So that's sort of the stuff. That's a long answer, sorry, but that's some of the stuff that we'll be talking about on stage, which is, not when you pray, for example, not speaking death over yourself and saying, oh, I got cancer, I'm this and that. Because when I first got the diagnosis, I became a cancer patient. I talked about it like it was my thing.
Right.
When in fact, you can absolutely manifest. You've seen it happen. People get a diagnosis and they give them, a year to live, and they die in 2 months, right? You probably have somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true.
It can happen. So that's a lot about what we talk about on the radio show now today too, is hacking your subconscious mind with the right prayers, so you don't manifest death. And you can preach that from a stage, right? But when you're going through it, it becomes a little more impactful. When 6 days ago you were so nauseous you couldn't move. Kind of thing.
Oh man! Well, continued health to you, John. I hope that
something like that, right? Sorry,
that's a hell of a show closer, man. Wow, that's certainly
put as Monty Python said, as the guy said in the Grim Reaper scene of Monty Python in The Meaning of Life. That certainly cast a bit of gloom on the evening, hasn't it?
It certainly has. Well, obviously, we'll all be. I was just going to say, John. Obviously, we'll all have you in our prayers and in our thoughts, and continued hope that they can just keep getting at that.
You bet. Yeah, I'll be around for a long time. I'm up to my life expectancy is now up to another 15 years. They just added a bunch of years to it. So,
that's great news.
I know. It's great. So my job is to make sure I remind people to get tested, and people who are sick I can remind them of those the prayers that we worked. That really
the colonoscopies and make sure your PSA levels are good. All of those things that are important for a man over 50.
It's a longer conversation, but my cancer didn't make a PSA, so it's even beyond that. And so you can hear that on our, if you want to go further, you can hear that on our podcasts. Scotty was just reminding me of a note that came through that he it's so funny because he launched this show with me, right? And we've been together almost 20 years, I think it is now. And he reminded me that when you're listening to our radio show, right? You only hear what you're interested in, right? So we've we've given this tip maybe 20 times, and finally Scotty heard it, right? It sunk in, and it was how to stay, he's always so fit, Scotty is, but how to stay, one example of how to stay fit is you set an alarm for yourself, and it's once an hour, I think it is, Scotty, once an hour you do 20 push-ups. So he's been doing this for the last, couple of weeks. He's gotten so strong. You set a timer on your phone, even if they're knee push-ups, right? Push-ups from your knee, or even if it's just squats. We sit so much, and we now know, Tim, that sitting is its own risk factor for heart disease. Oh, he says once per hour. Okay, so once per hour, you do 20 push-ups, or like I said, or if you can't do those, you can do squats. But it's a great strategy, and you end up being so fit after even just 5 days.
Wow, incredible! Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I noticed that Scotty is a kickboxer. And so I happened to see that on his Facebook page or something to that equivalent. Or is it MMA or is it kickboxing or what is it that? He can
pretty much do anything. He uses, he goes on these Tough Mudder races. And what's funny is, Scotty's single, right? And hi, Kim Schaefer-Crane. And thank you for saying prayers. Scotty is very versatile as an athlete. He and I both have had back surgery, so it's amazing that he can even do, kickboxing. But, he does these Tough Mudder races, and we've actually had stories on the show about this, about how the Tough Mudders are where a lot of people end up finding dates, where a lot of women are very involved in this. So men and women, it's a shared experience, and it's not the marathon. Can you imagine trying to date somebody in the middle of a marathon? Yeah, Smiley, will you go out with me?
No, I can't.
But a lot of people are using it for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me this morning. It's our inaugural Facebook Live, and next time we'll get you even more plugged in, so that way you can knock out some tunes for us.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. This has been a lot of fun. It's been great therapy for me. I got a chance. Next time, would you please do it from that couch that I see over there in the back? It'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know that was in the shot, so that's even more entertaining.
Yeah, that's what you got to be careful of. Make sure you check that. And this is one more tip. Okay, so
sure.
a lot of we got this from an HR expert. A lot of HR experts are doing the first interview by Skype. You've heard about this?
No, I didn't realize it was that prominent.
Yes, it's very. Oh, there's a dog. It's a dog and a cat. Oh my gosh! And the lion.
I know. That's my life. A dog and a cat. Where
they're just in time. Well,
they're not biting each other, so that's good.
Tim's wrapping up.
Here, I'll go ahead.
I love cats. So yeah, what you do is a lot of them are. They'll say, "Well, let me do the first Skype interview." So people are like, "Oh my gosh, what's that?" You can get online. You can get a battery powered light, right? A TV light. That's the first thing you do. And the other thing is you got to check your background. You got to make sure there's not something, because they're going to be looking at that background. You got to make sure there's something. It's not like, if you have a beer can sculpture, you don't want that for the Skype interview.
Yeah.
I've been checking out your stuff. So I see you have a couch that looks like it's circa 1958. So I figured.
Thank you. It's actually part of a pit group. You're just seeing the back of it, but it's
right.
Yeah, I do have.
If I was interviewing you for a job and you had a Barker lounger back there, I'd say, well, this guy is probably spending a lot of time watching TV, and I can't see what else you got. We got a dog that looks very happy, so that's good.
She's but I have a lot of antique radios and reel-to-reels and things like that. So, it's just, I suppose you could get a backdrop. I mean, if you do a lot of these types of things,
I'm going to get a backdrop. That's awesome.
You need green screen, John. You can paint one of your walls green. I'm sure Connie would be okay with that, and then you'd be good.
I've had enough of green screen in my life. Thank you.
I'm sure you have.
All right. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for the opportunity. We have to get off, so Scotty will actually get back and do some work.
Okay. Well, as long as we can do that. Again, John Tesh, Intelligence for Your Life. His show airs Sunday through Friday from 7 to midnight on Omaha's Greatest Hits 99.9 KGOR. John, thank you very much for taking the time, and we'll hook up with you next month.
My pleasure. If you want to come see us live, just go to Tesh.com and click on that concert button.
Awesome. Thanks again, John. We'll see you next time.